Hi, I'm Dr. Regina Ragasa, the Chief of Obesity Medicine for Kaiser Permanente Panorama City. I'm incredibly thankful to you for clicking on this link to learn more about how you can make this your last weight loss journey forever. Now, I didn't send this link to you because I don't want to spend time with you. It's just with all the time constraints and all the people coming to our clinic, there's barely enough time to talk about the medical management for weight loss, let alone the most important piece, which is long-term lifestyle changes. So I want to use this opportunity to share that important piece of your weight loss journey. So let's get started. When I talk about weight loss, I always ask my patients, what have you tried for weight loss? And oftentimes people will tell me they've tried a no carb, low carb diet, but it's incredibly hard to keep. Sometimes they'll tell me that they're eating lean meats and vegetables only and they still can't lose weight. Or maybe they're trying to portion control and the problem is that they still get hungry. Or they're trying to exercise like crazy and all the exercise that they're doing is not reflecting that on the scale, the progress that they've made on the scale. And then lastly, I do have patients that also tell me that they try to calorie count, but also not seeing the results that they were hoping for. So the reason why you're here today is because you haven't given up. And the reason why I'm here today is because I want you to be successful. I don't think you've tried everything yet, and I still have hope in you. So the way I see surgery and medications is that they are a form of training wheels for you. You know, medications help to suppress your appetite while you're learning to eat differently. And then hopefully, as you're adopting those new changes into your life, it all of a sudden becomes more of a habit for you. And at some point, you feel really comfortable eating this way so that we can actually pull those training wheels off of you. And the reason why I even put surgery into the category of training wheels is because, you know, unfortunately, we do hear about those patients that sometimes they get the surgery and then 5 or 10 years down the road, they see their weight starting to creep back up. So at some point, those training wheels get a little worn out per se, even though their stomachs are still the same size, even though they feel completely restricted when they're eating. And it's not about how much they're eating, but rather the quality of the food that they're putting into themselves. So I know I'm going to look like I have 3 heads on right now, but I really need you to hear me out. All the other diets that you have tried have not helped you. So please take a leap of faith and just keep an open mind and give this a shot. So I have 3 rules for weight loss and weight maintenance. Rule number 1 is no animal products. So if it had eyeballs, came from something with eyeballs, I really want you to try to avoid that. Now, that might sound like I'm asking you to be a vegan, but in today's age, it is so easy to be a junk food vegan. For example, Oreos are technically plant-based or vegan, but they certainly don't grow off trees like that. So I want you to ask yourself, you know, does the food that I'm going to eat today, does that look like it grew off of trees or did it grow out in nature like this? And if the answer is yes, it belongs on your plate. If it looks like it was highly manipulated by human beings, then maybe we should save that for a celebration or put it in your 10%, which we'll talk about percentages in a little bit. And then lastly, most of my patients can get away with rules 1 and 2 really well, but sometimes people's weights will still get stuck with just those 2 rules. So sometimes I have to kick in rule 3, which is trying to cook without oil. I also have a lovely link to a video that you can learn how to cook without oil, which works particularly well for sautés or soups. Now, if you want something crispy, usually crispier foods require oil, but how often should we be eating crispy foods anyway, right? Okay. So now the 3 rules that I'm giving you are not just for weight loss. This is truly for optimal health. This is the same diet that I recommend for my patients with diabetes, cholesterol issues, high blood pressure, heart issues, etc. It helps with a lot of different chronic conditions. Now, the type of diet that kind of sums up this whole picture of, no animal products, no processed foods, or cooking with little to no oil is called a whole food plant-based diet. And I want you to be able to eat this way at least 90% of the time. And if you're able to do that, I guarantee you will have a lot of success. And again, this will be your last journey when it comes to weight loss. Now, let's look at what 500 calories of different foods look like in your stomach. You can see here that 500 calories of oil, 500 calories of cheese, 500 of meat, which includes chicken, pork, beef, or fish, it does not really fill up your stomach. So obviously when I give you weight loss medications, you're going to see here that it's going to suppress your appetite, so you're going to be able to eat less of that, and that's how you're going to lose some weight, and it might motivate you that, oh my gosh, things are going great. But in the long term, what we really want to focus on is to choose the right foods for our body, because if you choose and focus more of your foods on the right-hand side of the slide, more potatoes, rice, beans, fruits, and vegetables, you are able to fill up your stomach even more so you won't feel hungry, and it's for a lot less calories. And this is why a whole food plant-based diet works. Kind of going back a little bit, I like to highlight that everything on the right-hand side has all of the protein, the carbs, and the little bit of fat that your body needs. And not only that, it also has the antioxidants, the vitamins, the nutrients, the fiber. All of these things play a role in bringing down inflammation in the body. So it's an anti-inflammatory diet. Whereas the stuff on the left-hand side, the oil, cheese, meat, the only things that it offers there is fat and protein, and unfortunately animal protein in general will cause more inflammation in the body, which is why it's really difficult for a lot of people who are quote unquote eating a healthy diet like a chicken salad every day to still have difficulty losing weight. So again, I want you to focus most of your foods over on the right-hand side, and in the next slide you're going to understand why. So this is a different way of looking at calorie density. This tells you per pound of all these different foods how many calories everything's worth. So here is where a whole food plant-based diet lies. You have your vegetables, your fruits, your unprocessed carbohydrates, and your legumes. And let's just focus on proteins to start with, because I feel like in America, we're incredibly obsessed about protein, and whenever you try to go on your weight loss journey, everyone just talks about that. But if you compare legumes, which includes your, beans, lentils, tofu, it's only 600 calories per pound versus animal products, that includes, again, chicken and fish, about 1,000 calories per pound. So almost twice as many calories, which is why when my patients make that drastic change in their diet and really use beans or lentils or any type of plant protein that's not highly processed, when they switch over to that 90% of the time, they will see a dramatic drop in their weight loss. Now, to break this down a little bit too, in America, we seem to think that chicken has this halo over its head. It's this godsend. It's the best type of meat you should be eating for weight loss. But if you take just 3 ounces of chicken breast, which is not a lot of meat, and just 3 ounces alone, even without the skin, it's got 11 grams of saturated fat, versus a serving of beans is only 0.5 grams of saturated fat. So again, this is why my patients lose weight very, very quickly when they actually stick to their beans and lentils. Now, let's look at carbs, because I know a lot of you were a little confused that I said you could eat potatoes. Here you have unprocessed carbohydrates at only 500 calories per pound. With unprocessed carbohydrates, this includes potatoes, whole grains, brown rice. All of this stuff is actually very low in calories. Just imagine a 5-pound sack of potatoes that you would buy from the supermarket, right? And then cooking 3 pounds of that and trying to eat it all in one day. Can you do that? I mean, it's a lot of food, right? Usually when I cook that amount for me and my husband, 3 pounds of potatoes, it'll last us around 2 days. But if you were to eat all 3 pounds in one day, it's only 1,500 calories. The only reason why potatoes are seen as a fatty food within America is because we like to eat them doused in oil. We like to eat them as French fries or potato chips, or if we're gonna have baked potatoes, what do we like to throw on it, right? We like to throw on butter, sour cream, bacon bits, cheese, right? And then we blame the potato at the end. So the potato is actually quite innocent and very healthy for us. So I actually encourage my patients on this weight loss journey to consume more potatoes and whole grains. Now, not all carbs are created equal, which is why I wanted to highlight over here the processed carbohydrates. This includes, your white bread, your pastries, crackers, pretzels, things like that. So those type of foods are about 1,400 calories per pound versus 500 calories per pound. So clearly there's a huge difference between the two, with processed carbohydrates being about 3 times as many calories compared to unprocessed carbohydrates like the potatoes and whole grains. All right, now vegetables are only 100 calories per pound. A lot of people make the mistake that when I say I want them to eat a plant-based diet, it means only salad. But if you were to only consume non-starchy vegetables and ignore everything else in the plant spectrum, because they're only 100 calories per pound, in order to get 1,500 calories per day, you would have to eat 15 pounds of vegetables every day. You might as well make that your new full-time job. It's nearly impossible, which is why, again, I ask my patients to really lean in on the entire spectrum of the plant-based diet, everything from the vegetables and the fruits and the unprocessed carbohydrates and legumes. Now, obviously, junk food's not good for you. It comes in at about 2,300 calories per pound. Nuts and seeds have a very special place in my heart. There are lots of health benefits to eating nuts and seeds. However, they're very high in calories, coming in at 2,800 calories per pound. So if you're going to eat them, I want to make sure you limit it to only a 1/4 cup per day, which is about a handful of nuts per day. Okay. And lastly, oils. No, it doesn't matter what kind of oil. We're talking about olive oil, avocado oil, coconut oil, fats in general. These are 4,000 calories per pound. Now, a lot of people are like, oh, but isn't like olive oil good for you? And it's like, well, I mean, the oil from the olive is good for you when it's included in the entire olive, right? So, I mean, just imagine how many olives you have to squeeze just to get 1 tablespoon of olive oil. It's a lot of olives, and it doesn't come with all the vitamins and the antioxidants. You're literally just squeezing the fat out of that and putting it on top of your food. And for most people, I would say that it's not like you look at a bottle of olive oil and pour yourself a teaspoon and stick it in your mouth and go, oh my God, that stuff is delicious, right? Most of us just use it out of habit in cooking our meals this way. We're just so used to it doing that. But if you cook with a tablespoon of oil daily and you're eating all that food, it adds up over time, right? So even if you're just doing a tablespoon per day, that's about almost a 1/2 cup of olive oil per week, excuse me. So again, that adds up, and they're empty calories. There are no true benefits to this other than, this is just how we were taught how to cook. So I want you to retrain your brain on how to cook differently without oil. And again, I have a video on that, which you can certainly look at. Okay, so this is my favorite part of the presentation. I love to share testimonials, and these are real patients of mine who have somehow taken that leap of faith and trusted me on the plant-based message. So everyone who's done that is a true superhero. So this is Miss Wonder Woman. She's actually the first patient that I counseled on going plant-based. And in all honesty, I didn't even counsel her on going plant-based for weight loss reasons. I was counseling her to go plant-based because of her prediabetes and her cholesterol. And after being in her ear about it for a couple years, she finally decided to take my advice. But anyway, so these are her stats. You know, she's 4'11". She doesn't have much height on her, and her maximum weight is 259 pounds. She's a 50-year-old woman, so it means, you know, we got menopause working against us. All the hormones are out of whack, you know. So again, this is her at her highest weight. She didn't really do anything this year, and then the following year she decided, okay, I'm going to calorie count. I'm going to be very serious about my weight loss. And from just calorie counting and restricting to 1,500 calories per day, she was able to lose 30 pounds a year. So that's about 2.5 pounds per month. Not insignificant, right? And then she decides, okay, let me put in that last bit. Let me try to switch over to a plant-based diet. So she ends up adopting a whole food plant-based diet 90% of the time and still counting calories at 1,500 calories per day. And 13 months later, she drops 94 pounds, which is an average weight loss of 7 to 8 pounds per month. So she drops from 259 pounds down to 130 pounds. And let me tell you, I'm incredibly proud of this patient. She is still 130 pounds 3 years later. So kudos and to her. And in all honesty, I'm so happy to have been able to be part of this journey with her, because she's the one who inspired me to be a little more lax on my recommendations for plant-based, because previous to her, I was always telling people to be 100% plant-based, but that was, I think, a little unreasonable with the way that we live in America. And so the way she does it is basically being plant-based 90% of the time, which leaves about 1 or 2 meals a week that she's still able to consume fish or chicken. And she uses those opportunities to hang out with friends and family, or when she goes to parties, she gets to eat whatever she wants over there. And the rest of the time she's sticking with her beans, right? Okay. So this is Mr. Superman. His maximum weight was 766 pounds. He's 6 foot tall. He ended up getting surgery and lost 400 pounds, which again, not insignificant, more than half of his weight. But he got stuck at 350, and he was just like, you know, even though I'm 6 foot tall, I feel like 350 is still big for me. So he came to our typical weight loss classes, and all of them encourage, okay, eating leaner meats like chicken and fish, staying away from red meats. So he followed that very religiously. He was also taught, you know, stay away from processed foods. So no junk food was in his life. He was also on a weight loss medication called phentermine, and after 2 months of being on this incredibly strict diet, not a single crumb of cookie had passed his lips. He ends up losing 2 pounds. How familiar is this story to those of you listening today, right? And so incredibly frustrating. You're doing everything right, and you still can't lose that weight. So he gets a consult with me, and at this point I tell him, listen, I am so proud of you for all the changes you have made, but I need you to do one more thing. I need you to switch out your protein. I need you to focus more on beans and lentils. And he's like, you know what? I am so tired of my weight. I will do anything. So he ends up switching to rice and beans, lots of fruits and vegetables over the next month, and he drops 30 pounds in a single month. The next month, he drops another 20 pounds and then another 7 pounds, almost 60 pounds in just 3 months. And that's not the phentermine. It's because he was able to change his diet. This is another example. This is Miss Super Lady. She's 33 years old, 5'1". Her starting weight was 231 pounds. She's actually a coworker of mine, and you know, she had been struggling with weight for her life. Usually keto works really well for her. She kind of regained her weight after her pregnancy, and so she tried keto again, and nothing was budging. By the way, she also has a history of a gastric sleeve, so her stomach is quite small. And even her coworkers tease her a little bit because they call her a bird because she barely eats anything. And despite having these incredibly small portions, trying to stick with keto, eating only vegetables, you know, she still can't lose weight. And because she's my coworker, she knows me as the crazy plant-based doctor. And she approaches me one day and she's like, you know what? I'm going to try your crazy diet, but after that, I'm going to eat whatever I want. I'm like, okay, that's cool. I don't like to give unsolicited advice. I'm just here for support. So she starts at 231 pounds. She does the 2-week trial of a plant-based diet, and she loses 5 pounds within 2 weeks. She can't believe it, from just switching from animal-based proteins to plant proteins. And she loves it so much, she sticks with it. And all in all, I put here that she lost 24 pounds in 3 months, but all in all, I think she lost 36 pounds within a 5-month period, which is incredible. So, so incredible. All this time, she struggled so hard to get her weight down. And then she ended up getting pregnant, so we're not counting her weight loss anymore. So we're super excited for that. But you can see here that that change alone has helped so many of my patients. And this is just 3 of many, many stories. I have people enrolled in our plant-based classes, and they're sharing wonderful stories about losing, 10 pounds in the last month, 30 pounds over 2 or 3 months. Other people are losing 40, 50 pounds. And again, this is all from dietary changes. So, I think about this, and unfortunately, with the American population over the last several decades, we've seen the growth of overweight and obesity in our country. And at this point, 75% of our population is considered at least overweight. You cannot tell me that 75% of the population is born wrong and there's nothing we can do about it. I truly blame our food system, unfortunately, and it is completely not your fault. I don't blame you at all. I know you are trying hard, but I need you again to just really trust me on this journey and really give this a shot. I really, truly want you to be successful. All right. So obviously these people who I showed you are people who went cold turkey. Kudos to them for having that determination and the ability to just turn that switch off and make that change. But that's not for everyone. There are definitely some patients I see and they're like, oh my God, I look at something green and I'm like about to gag. I get that. So for those people who are not quite ready to just, dive off into the deep end, it's also okay to take baby steps, just literally start with 1 meal that is plant-based a week. And then see how that is, see how it tastes, start exploring recipes. And as you start finding recipes that you really like, you can start expanding. Next thing you know, you're doing 3 times a week on Monday through Friday now. You're plant-based, and on the weekends, you can eat whatever you want. And you're still able to maintain your weight loss. That's the beautiful part of it. As restrictive as this sounds, it's not. I had this, I'm going to share another story. I feel like the stories are just so inspirational. I had another patient, same thing. I was her regular doctor for a little bit, and she was dangerously close to developing diabetes. And I told her, listen, if you get any higher, I'm sticking you on medications. And that flipped her out a little bit. So she's like, okay, I'm going to do this stupid plant-based thing. So she does it. And she's not even 100% plant-based. She does it 80% of the time, which comes out to like 3 or 4 meals that she still includes weekly that have some type of meat. And when she does, it's very small piece. And over the span of 6 months, 6 months, she loses 30 pounds. And of course, now her labs are gorgeous and all that stuff. And she shares this beautiful story with me that she and her sister have been overweight all their lives, and they've always struggled with it. And between the two, her sister was always the thinner person. And ever since she went plant-based, my patient, now she's the thinner one compared to her sister. And she looks at her sister and she feels bad for her because she looks at her weighing out her food, counting calories, keeping her portions small. And despite all of these things that she's trying to do for weight loss, she can't get her weight down. And she looks at herself and she's like, I just choose beans and I can eat as much as I want. There's no restrictions and my weight falls off. So even though this sounds restrictive, it's actually quite liberating. There's no calorie counting. There's no portion control. You can eat intuitively. You're going to eat until you're satisfied, not just what you're supposed to eat. Because obviously, if this was all about portion control and if it was easy to do, the weight loss clinic would not exist because everybody could do it. So again, it's not about portion control. It's about choosing the foods that are most healthy for our body and can allow us to function at our best. And I included this one in case some of you want to be 100% plant-based like myself. You can also do that. Okay, so what's moderation? We kind of talked about this a little bit. I have a 90-10% rule. Again, 90% of the time, I want you to maintain a whole food plant-based diet. Try to eat things that looks like it grew from the ground. And the other 10%, once or twice a week, you can have chicken, pork, beef, fish, whatever you prefer, if that's what you want to do, and so that you can still enjoy those parties without feeling left out. Okay. Oops. Okay, so most importantly, I think the biggest question to ask yourself is, why are you doing this? Why are you on this weight loss journey? Is it because you have knee pain and maybe your surgeon won't let you get your surgery until you get to a certain weight? Maybe you just want to be more active and you can't do that because, again, your weight is kind of holding you back. Maybe you're doing it because of your family. You want to live a long, healthy life for your family and really to be able to enjoy those beautiful moments with them. Or maybe you're tired of taking all these pills. You know, whatever your why is, it needs to be strong enough so that when those temptations come by, you are able to think about why you're doing this and it keeps you straight on your path. Okay. Now, here are some patient testimonials that I have heard. These are testimonials directly from my own patients, and they've told me about their either weight loss journey or for whatever reason that we're doing it or whatever reason I recommended a plant-based diet to them. They told me they have no more gout flares. This one woman in particular, she had severe fibromyalgia. She was seeing a pain management specialist for years, and she maxed out on her medications. She came back to my office in tears saying, I don't know what else to do. The doctor can't give me any more medications. And I sheepishly in my office said, I don't know. Maybe you can try a plant-based diet. I don't know if it's going to work. So I taught her everything, and she was, furiously writing notes on everything and did everything to a T. And this woman, by the way, with her fibromyalgia, it was so painful for her. She had to wear knee braces to walk, and she's only 38 years old, walking around with a cane, and she has 2 young children that she can't run after. So anyway, she goes on a plant-based diet, and after 2 months, she stops using her knee braces. She's not walking with a cane anymore. And not only that, she is hiking up mountains with her husband. Her life is completely changed. A lot of patients will tell me they don't have constipation issues anymore. They have improved body odor, improved acne and eczema. I sleep better. I take less medications for diabetes, blood pressure, and cholesterol. Less migraines, no more bloating, no more acid reflux, and more energy. I mean, who can't use all those things, right? Now, to support you on this journey, because I know it's really difficult, I highly recommend that you enroll in our plant-based classes. We offer free class, an introductory class that tells you so much more about plant-based, all of the benefits to it. And then not only that, at Panorama City, we are so lucky that we have a support group that you can join afterwards. And it's a series of, I think, 11 or 12 lectures with people joining together and learning more about plant-based, sharing recipes, and then, maybe tackling tougher questions like, what do you do about cheese? We know that cheese is such a big issue for patients that we have a whole class dedicated to cheese substitutes that are healthy for you. And then, of course, the other aspects of lifestyle changes that can be helpful, like mindfulness, meditation, sleep, exercise, things like that. But the main focus for sure is definitely dietary changes, because this is, I understand, very hard. I went plant-based about 4 or 5 years ago, and I know I had no idea what to eat. I was like, I know how to make chicken and broccoli, and I can't just eat broccoli the rest of my life. So the wonderful thing about this is that this class will help guide you through it. And so we offer it in English, and we also offer it in Spanish for our Spanish-speaking patients. These are some of the testimonials that have come out of the classes themselves. The first one is, I've been plant-based for 2 months. I'm down 10 pounds now. It took me 2 weeks to get settled in. I haven't been hungry at all. I have a few burger nights and went straight back to my vegan routine. I love how I feel. This is a great program. Another person said, I've been plant-based for 2 to 3 months and I lost 29 pounds. I started a month ago and I lost 18 pounds. These are incredible stories, and this could be you, okay? This I love. We offer this in our classes, but I'm going to give it to you right now. This is a QR code that if you scan this, it's got 14 pages worth of recipes and resources so that you can get an idea of what a plant-based breakfast, lunch, or dinner might look like. And at the very end, again, there's resources there too, so you can look into other websites or books or movies or documentaries that can help you on this journey. Is this safe? Yes, this is safe for all ages. I've been raising my kids plant-based since they were born, and they're just as crazy as all the other kids, but they're healthy. Is it safe for pregnancy? I can say yes to this too. Personal story here, I was plant-based for my let me start back. I was pescatarian for my first child. I ended up developing gestational hypertension, which means I had high blood pressure in my pregnancy, and I gained about 40 pounds in my pregnancy. I also had trouble shaking that weight off until I got rid of fish and cheese. Mind you, I was having fish like maybe 3 times a week and like, I don't know, just a regular serving of cheese daily. And once I got rid of that, in literally 3 weeks, I lost 10 pounds. I could not believe the results. And then I knew that it was safe for pregnancy at that time. So with my second pregnancy, I decided to be plant-based fully, and I did not develop high blood pressure with my second pregnancy, despite being older. I gained only 30 pounds, and instead of taking me 9 months to shake off the baby weight, it took me 3 months to go back to my regular weight. And both babies, both turned out at 7 pounds. So both of them were very, very healthy. Okay, is it safe for elderlies? Yes. Athletes, absolutely. I have lots of recommendations for when people are like athletes or love to work out a lot. There's a book called The Plant-Based Athlete. If you're super into macros, that's an awesome, awesome book to check out. It's a bunch of testimonials from different athletes. And then they also include what does their meals look like throughout the day? And they also include recipes with all the macros calculated out. So how much protein, carbs, and fat are in each meal, and they have ideas for pre and post workout snacks. What about bariatric surgery? There are some people listening to this video today who are going the surgical route, or maybe they've already had surgery and they're getting that weight gain. So the book I actually recommend for those patients is Dr. Garth Davis's book. He is a bariatric surgeon based in Texas, and being the passionate doctor that he is, as most of us are, we all just want you to get better. He was getting frustrated that his patients were gaining weight 5 or 10 years after having surgery. And, he would measure the patient's stomachs. They were still the same size. They were calorie counting. And despite all that, they still couldn't lose that weight and they were still regaining. So he did a deep dive into nutrition and he found out that a plant-based diet was the way to go. So he teaches that to his patients, and those are the patients who are most successful at keeping their weight off. And then lastly, kidney problems, yes, totally safe for diabetes as well, okay? So what I'm asking you to do, I know it's not easy. This is definitely going to be an uphill battle. Only 3% of the US population eats this way. So you're going to hear it from your friends, you're going to hear it from your family members. But I want to remind you that this is your weight loss journey. Nobody has been in your shoes or understands your struggles except for you. And that you are doing this for yourself. So please remember that when people are trying to say things about how you're eating, okay? So I truly think plant-based is coming back. This is how we used to eat generations ago. You may have heard about the blue zones. People also in the blue zones eat this way and they live longer lives with less medications, and we need to take it back to basics. And I'm going to end this talk with my favorite quote from Thomas Edison, which is, "The doctor of the future will give no medicine, but will interest her patients in the care of human frame, in diet, and in the cause and prevention of disease." I'm leaving my Instagram up here. I'm Kelly Wellness Doc in case you want to see some helpful health tips and videos. I'm also on TikTok. And I just want to remind you that you got this. You absolutely have this. And we have your back. All right. So good luck to you. Thank you so much. And I'm so excited for your last weight loss journey.